We have upwards of 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of those thoughts are negative. If 80% of my mind is designed to be negative and look for problems, it's so that I can solve them and stay safe. And my mind also needs some good discipline. And in that, 95% of your thoughts are repetitive. 95%. Unintentionally, you're going to just think the same things and it's going to be dominantly negative. Intentionally, we have 5% control of our conscious mind to decide what we're going to think about something. And when you're like, oh my gosh, Tessa, those are overwhelming numbers. I get it. And the best way to change it is to start tapping into, logging in, and truly like training and conditioning your mind through that 5% of consciousness to say, this is what I want to think, and this is what I want things to look like, and this is who I want to be. And then it goes into the subconscious mind and starts sharing a new program back.
Hey guys, my name is Shayla. Welcome to the Hey Shayla Podcast. I went from full-time travel to full-time new COVID mom, and now I'm a mom of two. And holy wow, is motherhood and adulting a learning curve. There are so many decisions we need to make and a million ways to do it right. I created this podcast to interview some of my gurus to share their knowledge and empower you on your journey. Let me be your guinea pig and ask the questions you think everyone else knows. Here, we're a little hippie. We try to do things as naturally as possible. We're open-minded, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. But above all, we support one another and work to find what works. If you're into it, you're our people. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to the Hey Shayla Podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Tessa Romero. I love chatting with Tessa Romero. She is the mindset expert for mothers wanting to change what they think, how they feel, and what they do on a daily basis. Tessa Romero, like I just said, is a mindset coach for moms. And this is the third time she's been on my podcast. The first time was episode 24, Partner Resentment. If you're feeling any of that, go check that episode out. Episode 33, How to Enjoy Motherhood with a Positive Mindset. And then this podcast is about mindset during pregnancy with other children. And we get there, but we start out and just go back and forth with all of the things, like so many things that we've both experienced with motherhood and having to shift our perspective on them. But then once we dive into the mindset around being pregnant with other children, it's just so good. I left this podcast episode, went downstairs and was just on like a high, not even just like a podcasting high, like I normally get on, but like a mindset shift high. And it was great. So Tessa believes that the thoughts we entertain eventually become our attitude and behavior. And she is helping mothers rewrite those thoughts so they can see the natural progression in feelings and behaviors. And by rewrite, she literally means rewrite. Her whole thing is alignment journaling, and it has truly transformed my mindset when I'm consistent. Again, I'm the queen of getting really into something and then falling off of it. But this one I keep going back to. I keep going back to the journaling. She's coached mothers for over 5 years and has created a highly effective course that brings these tools to homes around the world. If you're like, by the end of this, you're like, I'm sold. I want it. Tessa, what do I do? Tessa Romero _ is her Instagram. You can just follow for great content. And sometimes I watch her stuff and I'm like, come on, Tessa, this is too positive. But then but then these things get put into my subconscious and they make me better. So I would rather watch something that's so positive that makes me like think a little bit than constantly consuming all of the negative parts that people portray motherhood. Or you can check out our website, alignmentjournaling.com. She's pregnant with her fourth. I'm obviously pregnant with my third. And so we just talk about the mindset around pregnancy and like mom guilt with so much screen time during pregnancy and how to not feel the mom guilt around that. And it's a good one. So I hope that you enjoy this. Let's get into it. All right. Welcome, Tessa. I'm so happy to have you back on. All of our podcasts have been an absolute hit with my listeners because, I mean, everyone, especially moms, need a little mindset work.
A little bit.
Yep. Yep.
Bit. And it's just such a blessing to be invited back onto your show. I love our chats tremendously. And the women that have reached out to me from your podcast are just, yes, they're such a blast. Like, I found you on Shayla's podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I feel like our community is aligned so well. I love it.
I agree. And I think I sent out an email saying that I was pregnant. You responded back like, woohoo, or opposite. I think you sent out an email saying you were pregnant. I was like, congratulations, yay. And I was like, wait, do you want to be on the podcast to talk about mindset during pregnancy with other children around? Because it's a very special time.
It's a special time. It's different.
It is different. With your first, you're like, I'm tired. I'm going to lay down and take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
With your second, you could even be like, okay, I'm going to nap with you during your nap time, like sleep when the baby sleeps.
Mm-hmm.
With your third, which is what I'm on, I'm like, cool, my first doesn't nap anymore. So I can't really just leave her unattended while I nap with the baby. And you're on your fourth. So you've got lots of them. You've got lots of other people to take care of while
got my
trying
crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always like to start the podcast with you. So like, tell me more about you, how you came into mindset work, and then how it's been so far being pregnant with your fourth.
Okay, let's do that. Well, my name's Tessa Romero. I've been married for 9 years to this lovely man of my dreams that I just lucked out and tripped over and landed right there with him. So that's been great. We're pregnant with our fourth, expecting our fourth in July. And yeah, like that's kind of my home life jam. I work from home in my coaching business. And other than that, I stay home with my boys. So I work a little bit and I stay home with them. Getting into this work, I got into this work because I realized I needed it. And I certainly never thought I'd be helping other people through it because I didn't even want other people to know that I needed it. It was like this big shame storm, confusion for me that I was like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely embarrassing and humiliating that I think these things or say these things or do these things and look in the mirror and think so terribly about myself and doubt myself so much. Like I definitely wouldn't make a single friend if they knew that's like,
if anybody knew who I really was. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I would be alone. So I'm just not gonna let people know that that's what I'm going through. And gosh, if people knew how angry I felt and how like traumatic my childhood was, then again, I no one would want to be around me, was like the story I'd convinced myself of. And fortunately, our brains are big fat liars most of the time. So I had the opportunity to, yes, do this work on myself first. And then in one of the first businesses that I started as a workout community, it's where I came from. I really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So I started a workout community. And within there, I was able to see like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Like these women struggle with negative self-talk. These women struggle with self-love. And they really struggle with knowing who they are too. And I can open up more about my story. And that community gave me so much courage to do so. So that's how I got into this work. It was similar to my marriage, like stumble, trip, fall, face first right there. And there you are. And you're like, wow, what a great place to fall. So,
but you did it first. You did the work first. And then you were like, I
did it first.
I could probably help some people.
Yeah. And I was just so fresh out of the work that I was like experiencing all these tremendous changes in myself where I had just incredible self-talk and my perspectives I've just noticed were just so much lighter and brighter, and people weren't, I'm using my air quotes here, people weren't making me mad anymore. And I'm like, oh, cool. I don't have to feel pissed at whatever they're doing over there. Like, this is the best.
Yeah.
And I learned so much. And it's like, there was like a battle in my mind and I won is what it felt like. And, then when I noticed it going on in my community, it was just like, oh my gosh, like I can help you with that. And I honestly love that no part of me ever thought that this was going to be a career path or a calling of mine or something that I was good at. I never thought I was good at mindset. Like, are you kidding me?
Which is mind blowing if anyone follows you now. And I love that you share that though. You share like, I used to be a really terrible wife or really like resentful or whatever.
Really hurtful.
Yeah. But
I did some very hurtful things.
Yes, but I can relate to that because like I say mean things to my husband and then I hop on and I see Tessa Romero saying that she used to be this way. And then it's almost like, oh, well, what work do I need to get done? Or do? What work do I need to do? Really?
Yeah. And that's what I think is just so great about this work is so much in your life can change that you have no idea is going to change when you do. And just trusting like nothing needs to change before I do is so empowering. It's it just helps you realize where the focus really needs to be. And that's on yourself, and not in this selfish sense of like, the focus needs to be on me so I can nap whenever I want when I'm pregnant. No, the focus,
Yeah.
the focus is on me in terms of I can be whoever the frick I want to be, no matter who I'm around or what room I'm in. And I think that's just the most empowering experience in life, is to be in that familiar room with the person that you say you can't stand or you'll never forgive, and still show up as who you want to be.
Yeah.
I think that's like the ultimate power move, where you're just like, watch the freak out world, I'm coming.
Totally. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I like, through some of the things you've shared and some things that I've like worked through, is like, I have a really hard time with like not having the village. Like I don't have the mom or stay-at-home mom or the mother-in-law who's going to come over for a week or a month after the baby's born and like help me out. Right. And I would get so resentful, unbeknownst to them. Like they had no idea that I was just absolutely pissed. And I had to be like, yeah. And so, and so I had to be like, okay. Or same, my husband does shift work. And I'm like, how come other people have Sunday mornings with their husband and get to do the pancake thing? And like, I never get to do that. And I would just get mad at him for going to work. You know what I mean? And so and he's really good at this, because he's just like grateful for life. And so he's like, but how can you be upset? Like, we have just a beautiful family. And I'm like, I don't know. And so once I had to be like, okay, these are my circumstances. How do I make it so that I'm not pissed and I'm not resentful and and I had to just go like what you're saying, like put it on myself. What can I do to make myself feel better? I don't have this help. I don't have Sunday morning breakfasts. What do I have? I have middle of the week days with my husband where we can go to the zoo where no one's there. Or I have whatever. You just have to find the things that you do have and like figure out the changes that you can make, because you're the only person that's going to save you, right? And so it is a really powerful thing to take that control back a little bit and like that responsibility.
And what stands out to me too, and just this narrative that you're sharing, and I hear it from so many others, is one, how much it can get rooted into this like woe is me mentality.
100%.
And when I say that, I mean the victim mentality, like in professional language, I would say it's the victim mentality. Now, I don't just run around pointing my finger at people saying like, oh my God, you have a victim mentality. Like, no,
that's not helpful.
Exactly. It's just, we need to be able to call it something. And it's helpful to understand, like, you are not your mind. Just because your mind says something doesn't mean it's you, like your real voice. It means that it's like a programming, it's an influence, it's a conditioning. So if you have a victim mentality, we all do. Like, our mind loves to get to that place of, oh, poor me.
Yeah. Everyone else is doing this to me.
Yeah, everyone's doing it. Life is happening to me. Did you see that? The wind is blowing and I scheduled family pictures. Yeah. You want to tell me that's not happening to me? Like, just things like that, where we're like, the wind doesn't actually blow just
to ruin your family. Like, yeah. Right. But you share this, and this is what's controversial, is you're like, you're not tired. You're not angry. You're not. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, who we believe we are is different than how we feel. You're going to feel tired sometimes. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel disappointed. And you know what? Those are all feelings. And tell me which feelings we're not supposed to feel. Like, that's so bizarre to me that there are just some feelings that get labeled acceptable as bad. Yeah. And there's some feelings that are like, oh, well, that's just so good that you're feeling that. But don't feel happy for too long, because that's toxic. And it's like, what is happening in the world? And that's the thing, though, is like, everyone's going to tell you that you need to feel your feelings, and no one's going to tell you how long you need to feel them. So when you feel angry and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you need to feel angry, it's so healthy, it's so good for you. Okay, yeah, sure. How long? Because I was feeling angry for 12 years. And at what point was someone going to tell me like, hey, you don't actually have to keep feeling this way? Like, I would have loved that message sooner. And now I just see it as like, look, Tess, you feel angry right now. What the frick are you going to do about it? Like, this is your feeling in your body from your brain that's happening. And you have a lot of power and say over this. And you don't have to just sit here and feel angry because moms feel angry. Like, no, I just refuse to let that be my narrative. And that's what I mean when I say, like, you're not tired. I 100% stand behind that. You aren't. You feel tired. Like, and there are a lot of things you can do. And sometimes we don't need a nap. We need movement. We need water. We need electrolytes. We need a good freaking meal because we haven't fed ourselves. We need to go put on clothes that we feel good in. Like, get out of your pajamas and maybe you wouldn't feel so tired. Like, just things where it's like this narrative of like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. They're all overwhelmed. They're all exhausted. They're all angry. And in reference to mothers. And it's like, I think that is a super toxic narrative for anyone to be influenced by, especially a brain that
Yeah.
is taking in every message that it can
Yes.
get to try and form reality.
Yep.
And that's where I love to stay empowered of like, I may not get to choose what everybody else is going to say. I do choose who I listen to and what influences I take in, the podcasts I listen to, the people I follow on social media, the books I choose to read. I mean, somebody asked me to read this. She called it a controversial book. It was called Fair Play. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
So I haven't read it. I told her, I was like, okay, I'll read it. And the way that she was describing it to me, she's like, I had to stop reading it because I just felt like it wanted me to resent my husband.
Yep.
I was like, ooh, do I let that into my headspace? Or do I just accept like, it's just not for me? And I think in my position, like I want to be well-informed of the other narratives, the other sides, so that I can have an opinion on it, because I don't want to just take like a 1-paragraph email's word for it and then have a whole podcast episode and then just feel like completely misinformed. I don't have any examples.
Yeah.
So, and if you're not in that position though, don't read the book.
Right.
Like, don't go watch the TikTok video just because someone else said it's funny. And it was like them putting their kid in a box and kicking it out the door because their doctor said to get rid of the stress. Like,
yeah,
it's not good for your mind. It's not a good influence for you. So
if you're passively watching it, but like listening to that book for you, you're equipped knowing that it's probably not aligned with what you think. So you can listen to it and be like, okay, I can see where this person's coming from. They could benefit from this work.
Like, she is my ideal client. Would you look at that?
Literally. Yeah. But I think that's all social media. Like we should be filtering it out through, do I agree with this or do I not? Instead of being like, yeah, kids are the main source of my stress.
How will we do that though, without these two things in place? Just like you're saying, like, I want Sunday morning pancakes, the frick, like I'm looking at this other person's life. How come they get these things and I don't? And we're being influenced in that way. Without these two things, that's not going to change. One, you have to know who you are, not who they are, like, or anything else, or how you're feeling in that moment. You have to know who you really are that helps you through the feeling, who you really are that debunks that negative narrative coming through in your mind. And then the second part is knowing what you want. Some people do not want their husband home on Sunday. They're like, God, I would just love it if he worked shifts. Like, I would much rather have a Wednesday zoo. And this isn't about comparison. This isn't about hardship. I'll just use a personal example. When my husband was working at a university here in town, he worked there for 8 years in this position. And it was very demanding of him. Like some days he was gone for 12 hours. And because he trained athletes, they had games at night. They had games on the weekends. There's teams starting their lifting sessions at 5:30 so they can go to their class at 8. And that was our reality. That's just what we were in. And what's really cool though, is we knew this is a circumstance we're currently in, and we know what we actually want. And what we actually want was very different than what everybody else around us said that they wanted. We wanted to both be stay-at-home parents. And we've said that since the time we got married. Like 3 years before we had our first child, we both knew like, man, we both really want to be stay-at-home parents. And we want to have like this entrepreneurial life where we pursue something on our own and teach our future children these things and creativity. And that was a big part of our vision, what we want. And it took 8 years to make it happen. And we never lost sight of what we wanted. So now when I think it's important to be able to look at somebody else's life and know if that's even what you want.
Totally.
Like, is that what you want?
Yes.
You know, or, and understand that just because you're not there yet doesn't mean it's not coming.
Yep.
Like as long as you are actively pursuing what you want and keeping it the focus of your mind, you're journaling about it, 8 years later, it might come true. And then how's that going to feel? That for 8 years, you stayed focused. My husband and I now both stay home with our boys. And obviously that makes our life look a lot different than a lot of other people. And it also presents its own unique challenges within our parenting and within our marriage, because we do spend so much undivided time together. And that's what we wanted, though. That's what we signed ourselves up for. And for 8 years said, this is the goal. This is where we're going. This is what we really want. And And that's what I think is important, is just knowing who you are and knowing what you want. So that way, when you see what other people are doing in their lives, if it inspires you, great. Add it to your writing, add it to what you want. Don't sit there and think like, I can't have that too. If you really want Sunday morning pancakes, how the freak am I going to get these Sunday morning pancakes? This matters to me. And you're going to start writing about how like you have this and it's present tense. And people get so caught up on how they're going to do it. Like when we made this initial goal together to both be stay-at-home parents, and now it's been about like 18 months of us being home together with the boys, and we homeschool, and I have my business. He just got into like looking into real estate. So it's more just like the freedom that we were really after. When we first started making that goal, it was really crucial that we didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about how we were going to do it. Like,
totally.
And that's where people get lost. They're like, well, how the heck would I replace my husband's income? How would I be a stay-at-home mom? I wanted the same things, and they weren't just given to me. Like, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom so badly. And we were short $400 a month for me to do so. And I not once asked myself, how am I going to do that? I just said, I can do that. Yeah, I can make $400 a month. And I just kept my mentality there. And then it clicked for me one day. I just asked myself what I'm good at. And I was just telling Shayla this story.
Yeah.
I asked myself what I'm good at, and talking during workouts. People have always liked to work out with me because I can talk the whole freaking time. I don't get out of breath. Like, you want to do air squats and jumps and running, I will talk to you the whole time. And I love it. And people love it. So I started a workout community, and it far exceeded my goals. It didn't replace my husband's income by any means. It did give me a grocery budget, and it did let me stay home with my son. And I was like on cloud 9 that I had reached this goal, while yes, we're still living in our rental. And like the idea of building our dream home is not quite there yet. It's just, I knew what I wanted. And I wanted to be home with my son more than I wanted some mansion to live in, or
totally,
you know, these other things that you can see other people living. So just 2 things, friends: know who you are, know what you want. If something inspires you online, just start saying that's what you want to, instead of, well, they get that and I don't.
Yes.
And turning it to that negative, and just seeing it as inspiration and empowerment that you can have it too. Why not you?
Well, and two things to add on to what you just said. So the next step in your journey was that you realized that you were kind of outgrowing the workouts. You weren't really loving it, but you were loving the mindset. But you wouldn't have got to the mindset if you hadn't started the workout. And so I think figuring out, like, not even looking like, because everyone's like, how can I be an influencer? How can I get 100,000 followers? How can I? And it's like, no. Don't worry about all that. Focus on like what you want to share, what you like doing, document the journey, and like impact as many people as you can. That's how I started this too. I started traveling full time. I started doing yoga. I was yoga Shay. Then I was living on a one-way where I was literally full-time travel. How did I pay for that? No idea.
Yeah.
I just did. And that's like that, to your point, it's like you just do the things, and when you're in flow with your life, it works. And I am confident I was living off of $1,500 a month. Like that's what because I didn't have a mortgage, I didn't have a rent, I didn't have a home. I was like going and living in Nicaragua for a couple of months, and going and living here for a couple of months, and like
that's
just
amazing.
Moving around. But I had so much trust and faith in myself that I would just make it work. And my dad's friends are like, oh, you're funding Shay traveling all over the world? And he's like, no. And I would just like doing it all myself. The second thing with the circumstances, this happened to me the other day. I was at my sister's house. Her and her husband are sitting down on Sunday. They're like meal prepping for the week. They're figuring out what recipes they're going to make. Then they're going to go grocery shopping. Then they're going to make the meals. Then they're going to whatever. And then someone else is like, Seth has all this shift work. And like, if you need to do something, you're like stuck with the kids. Like they have to go with you to the chiropractor. They have to like if he wants to go to the gym, the kids are still with you. And like, there's not really a break for you. And it got in my head. And I was like, Seth, you never make dinner. Like, why aren't you ever making dinner? Or like, I don't get that much free time. And I got really short and like snippy with him, and we got in an argument. And then I went and put the baby down, and I just like was able to sit and calm down and reflect. And I came out with my tail between my legs, and I was like, listen, I love our life. I love what we've created. Is like the schedule ideal? No. Do we get to meal prep on Sundays? No, but we do such a good job of like co-parenting and trying to help each other out and check in with each other. And like, I just started like reinforcing all the things that we do well. And I was like, I'm really sorry. Like, I let these things get into my head. But when I scrape all of that away, I'm really stoked with what we're doing and what we've done. And like, yeah, it's hard, but again, we're working towards something. And like, it's just, you have to be able to like get rid of all of that talk and get rid of all of the like seeing the Sunday morning breakfast reels or whatever and being like, well, I don't get to do that. And just the comparison and just focus on yourself and be like, okay, but what do I love about this? And if I am not finding anything, what changes can I make that I will start to love these things? So that's,
Yeah. And I love what you're saying there, because so often, like when we're in that victim mentality, our mind wants and needs someone or something to blame. If it's the wind when you're taking family pictures, or if it's your husband and his work schedule, right? Like it wants so badly to have someone to blame. And when you can't point the finger outside of you, you'll point it at yourself. The victim mentality you'll blame yourself, you'll complain about yourself, you'll justify yourself just as much as you'll do it to anybody else. And it's so,
or your kids.
Especially, are you kidding me? Just go scroll social media for 3 minutes and there you go.
I know.
And what's so fascinating about it though is like there's always a better way. Like, okay, so Shayla, if you really wanted to be able to have that type of schedule within your family, would your husband shut down the idea of having the conversation of goals and dreams and like, this is what I envision it looking like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Would he be like, Shayla, stop talking to me about these things. I can't freaking stand it when you do this. Like, we are here with handcuffs on. Nothing can change. Like, no, he'd be like, wow, and I'd really like more time to work out. I'd like more time with the kids. How many times would we hear our spouse say, I would love more time with the kids. I would love to see you be able to go do what you want to do. Like,
he says it all. Exactly.
My husband said that too when he had that big long schedule. And I thought, oh, poor me. I'm home with our son all day. My husband's gone 12 hours. Guess what? He's gone 12 hours missing me and our son. Like this, it's not so, I'm telling you, it's like that mentality is not about complacency and circumstances that you don't like. That's not the point of mindset. And so many times when people hear me talk about mindset, apparently I need to do a better freaking job. They're like, well, that's nice in theory, but okay, red flag number one of the victim mentality is when you use the word but. So I'm like, bring it on. And they're just like, but here's my circumstances. And no amount of mindset is going to make it okay. If you would like to think that, that's great, Janet. And guess what? That's not a fact. That's your opinion. And you're also not going to find a solution to the circumstance you don't like, thinking that it's happening to you and it's completely outside of your control and nothing can change. All of that is an opinion. It's a thought. And if we would just look at like, what are the thoughts tainting my vision right now? What are the thoughts keeping me from even thinking about what I want because I'm so focused on something else? And if you were just to allow yourself to say like, all right, this is the schedule, my dream schedule for a day. Think about it. Let yourself think about what you want. And your mind is brilliant. It loves to solve problems. So give it a problem worth solving instead of like a person to fix. You don't need to fix your husband.
Yes. I remember journaling. I have it in my journal where I was like, I am home all day with the girls. I just like, I feel like my house is closing in. I just need to, and all of a sudden I was like, what things are there to do? There's a farmer's market. Oh, there's a breakfast shop that's by the lake. We could go get breakfast together and then go walk around the lake. And I literally wrote down a list of like 5 things. That was the best week of my life because in the morning I had a plan. I was like, we're going to the zoo this morning and we'll be back by nap time. And like, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, you can have some screen time because I feel so good that we were outside, that we got to go have breakfast together, that we got to do all these things. And like, but it's so challenging as moms to like sit down and actually think about that. Like even with us, we have our kids go to school like 3 hours a day. And I'm like, this is costing a lot of money. 3 hours is not that much time. I'm not getting that much done. And I'm like, I just literally like 5 minutes. I was like, Seth, you think on your days off, you could like be solely in charge of the kids from like 1 to 5? And he was like, yeah, that'd be cool. I was like,
Mhm.
great. Well, that would be a lot cheaper and I'd get so much more like dedicated work time. And he's like, yeah, cool. And so then at the end of the day, he's like, that was great. Like I got to be around them without you being like, that's not how we do things. What are you doing?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad that you got
He
to
gets to
enjoy
be
that.
a dad.
Yes, and be like in charge of all the things and like connect with the girls. And then I watched their relationship get better because they're relying on him for more things. And like, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, there's so many. I feel like we have 10 mini episodes in here.
Yeah. No kidding.
This is
So,
good.
yeah. But I am in your alignment journal as well, or like your alignment journal course. And I've gone
Mhm.
through it and I continue to go through it because I'm like, okay, let's do this again. What's my ideal day? What's my this? And like,
Yeah.
writing from where you want to be. Or Seth will be like, Shay, you have been complaining a lot about like
Mhm.
life and how hard it is. And like, it's hard to come home sometimes to have you just, I know that I'm going to walk into you being like upset. And I'm like, it's time to journal. I pull it
Yeah,
out.
so we like to do this proactively over
Yes.
here. I love that. I mean, truly though, especially during pregnancy, I notice a huge difference in myself one day not journaling. Like
Really?
it's fascinating to me. And I think it's just because I understand when my mind is being intentional and when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just faster at catching it now. So it's not that I never have negative thoughts. If you go look at my reels, yeah, 80% of those negative thoughts that you're reading came from my brain alone, like
Hmm.
not from somebody else. Like, hey, can you make a reel about this? Like,
Yeah, right.
no, it's just like, okay, so just a fun, like, fact part right here. We have upwards of 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of those thoughts are negative. So it doesn't matter if you're the mindset expert, mindset coach, you've been doing this for how many years, you still have negative thoughts. Your brain is designed to keep you safe. If everything were just like, la di da da, everything's fine, like you're not looking for solutions. How do you find a solution when you don't even see a problem?
Totally.
Right? Your brain is designed intentionally and beautifully and divinely. And whoever or however it got programmed and designed to do these things, it's on purpose. So you can trust that negativity has a place and it serves you. If 80% of my mind is designed to be negative and look for problems, it's so that I can solve them and stay safe. And my mind also needs some good discipline. It
Totally.
needs some good, because 80% is a ton. And in that, so 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% are negative, 95% of your thoughts are repetitive. 95%.
Wow.
So when you think about, yeah, your husband's coming home from work that day, 95% of your thoughts are already laid out.
Hmm.
Already, I'm going to think the same freaking thing that I thought about him coming home from work yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that. And the same thing about those things being on the floor, or the baby waking up in the middle of the night, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Like, unintentionally, you're going to just think the same things and it's going to be dominantly negative. Intentionally, we have 5% control of our conscious mind to decide what we're going to think about something. And when you're like, oh my gosh, Tessa, those are overwhelming numbers. I get it. And the best way to change it is to start tapping into, logging in, and truly like training and conditioning your mind through that 5% of consciousness
Mm-hmm.
to say, this is what I want to think, and this is what I want things to look like, and this is who I want to be. And then it goes into the subconscious mind and starts sharing a new program back there. So
Mm-hmm.
that way, when 95% of your thoughts are repetitive, it's a good thing. Like it's
Totally.
like, thank goodness I can just like coast on this program for a second.
Yeah.
And it's not so taxing, because yeah, mindset work can feel really taxing. And that's just because you have a program already instilled. So you're trying to change something. But think about how easy it's gotten to feel negative. Think about how easy
Mm-hmm.
it's gotten to go to this victim mentality and blame your husband. Okay, if that can be easy, then so can something different, as long as I put in the effort to
The
program
work,
it. So
right.
yeah, so like journaling is such a powerful way to do that, because it literally slows your mind down. If
Yes.
we're used to 60,000 thoughts a day,
Yes.
imagine how fast it's going. When I journal, my journal's out in the kitchen. When I journal, it takes me, this journal's a little bit smaller than my journal, but it takes me about 30 seconds to fill a line. 30 seconds, like 20 to
Jeez.
30 seconds to write one sentence. There is not enough time in the day for me to have 60,000 thoughts and hang on to each one for 20 to 30 seconds. There's
Totally.
not enough time in the day, right? So journaling, my brain wants to move faster. And it's like, no. I'm still writing this thought. Yeah. And what was the next word of that thought? Thank
Yeah.
you. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's how you discipline your mind. And if we would stop acting like victims of our minds, I
Right.
mean, truly, there's so many, even just like professional accounts that are like, oh, I'm the PhD for motherhood and parenting and all these things. I feel like they victimize so much of motherhood too, where I'm
Yeah,
just like,
I
why don't
agree.
you, instead of saying the mental load is so unbearable, why don't you teach people how to discipline their mind? That instead of resenting the amount of knowledge and information they have, you discipline their mind to only give them the information and knowledge they need when they need it. Why am I thinking about the freaking grocery store when I'm laying in bed putting my child to sleep? Why
Right.
am I thinking about the laundry when I'm doing my workout? It's not because of the mental load. It's because of that discipline. It's because of programming conditioning. If you don't tell your mind what to do, it's just going to run wild.
Wait, so you're saying when you put your kid to sleep, you should just be focusing on putting your kid to sleep. You shouldn't be thinking about the grocery bill or
I'm
the
saying
list.
you should be intentional about what you're thinking while you put your child to sleep. It should not be this, my brain is happening to me right now. It will not turn off. It will not slow
Got it.
down. It just doesn't have enough discipline in those areas. Like pen to paper, you've taught it how to be slow. If you don't
Totally.
teach your mind how to be slow, it only knows how to move rapidly.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of those thoughts are probably things that you're consuming from social media. So to then fill that space with slow, positive, intentional thoughts. This
Oh
reminds me
yeah.
of like my friend started running and her husband or her boyfriend was like, she's like, I'm running. Why is it still so hard? Like, why I should be getting better at this. But every time I go to run, I still experience this difficulty. And he's like, but how fast are you recovering?
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah.
a lot faster. And so I feel like it's similar. You have to put in the work so that when these negative thoughts that are inevitable, it's still going to be hard. It's still going to be
Yeah.
hard to run. You're still going to get these negative thoughts,
Oh, for
but you're
sure.
going to catch them and you're going to notice when they're happening and then you can change them. You can recover faster.
Yep. That's exactly right. And again, like I still have negative thoughts. I still feel angry when people are like, so you just never feel angry anymore? The frick? Like I'm a healthy human being.
Yeah.
I still feel angry.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that because I have a great mentality about my emotions. Any emotion that comes to me has a message to deliver. So I'm about to receive some incredible information or some wisdom that I would, will enrich my life, enrich who I am as a person. And I look forward to that. And how the frick would I be able to do this mindset work if I didn't have any negative thoughts or
Totally.
hard feelings or difficult moments with my kids? Like
Yeah.
I need hardship just as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
So
But
it's
I
just the
like that
mentality about it.
you're sharing it too. Cause I remember one time you were like, my husband asked me to go to Home Depot and I was like, no, I don't want to go to Home Depot. And then whatever. And then he started sending you like the aisles that he needed the things from. And I'm like, okay, so she does still have these hard times. But then you catch it. You're like, why am I being like, if I asked him to do this, he would no problem do this. Why am I giving him a hard
Exactly.
time about this? And you
Yeah.
are able to switch it faster, recover, and like go get the thing for him.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like I was going to the grocery store by my freaking self. He was staying home with all three boys and asked me to in addition to my trip, stop in Home Depot and get him more of these like mask things. And my brain's just like, no, which is
Yeah.
like, if I were to ask him to do the same thing, it'd be like, oh, of course I can do that. No
Yeah.
problem. Like, what, Tessa? And that's the thing that happened before I caught it. And that's your brain just works so freaking rapidly. And it's like, you're not going to catch everything. It's just, you're going to notice like once those words leave your mouth or you have that feeling, you're going to notice yourself like, this is not in alignment with who I want to be. Like, I want to be the wife that jumps for joy at the opportunity to do something nice for my husband, where I can like be of service and support of him. And this is not that. Like,
Yeah.
this is different. So
Right.
then I'm like realizing, like, oh crap, I handled that really poorly. That's
Right.
completely out of alignment with who I want to be. And the only reason why I know it's out of alignment with who I want to be is because I know who I want to be. So if you never spend time thinking about who you want to be, you're just going to keep doing what you've been doing before and never realize when you're in the wrong because you have nothing to compare it to.
Totally.
Which is a hard place to grow. Like that's like asking for zero growth.
Yeah, right. Totally.
And then I got to the store and I texted him and I was like, I'd really like to stop at Home Depot for you. Like trying to like put my tail between my legs to realize.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And I tell him, I had called him. I was like, hey, I'm getting Home Depot now. Just send me like those 3 things that you needed. He seriously went on Home Depot's website, screenshot the bay and aisle number that they're on and the exact picture of the product. Like he did everything in his power to make it as easy as possible for me. And I'm like, how many times have I asked you to go to the store and get diapers without even saying the brand or size? Like how
I do
like,
that. Can you give me tahini?
right?
He's like, first of all, what is that? Second of all, what aisle do I find that in? Tahini? What? I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, right. And it's just like, how many times do we set our spouses up for failure? Like, do we set them up so that we can say, see, you just don't pay attention. You should
Right.
know what size diaper they're in.
Totally.
Like, okay, how many times have your kids changed a diaper size in one day?
Yeah.
Like now they're not in 4s anymore, they're in 5s. And that happened within the last couple days. That, I mean, gosh, it's just like, do you really need your spouse to know every single detail that you know?
Right.
No. Like, just like you don't know every detail that they know.
Totally. Exactly.
We have our strengths and we're supposed to. And again, that's mindset work so that you can be respectful in your marriage and who you want to be. And then your spouse is more likely to do the same thing. Who wants to feel like just helpful, vulnerable, safe, secure around someone that's constantly criticizing them and saying what they're not good at? Like,
yes.
They're going to get armored up, defensive, and just assume the next word out of her mouth is going to criticize me. And they're ready for it. Their mind makes predictions just like yours does. And that's what I think is really cool about mindset work is it's not complacency in circumstances. It's an understanding of what you want things to look like and getting yourself on course for that. And seeing that nothing and no one needs to change before you do. It's just that when you change, so many other things do. Your kids respond differently to do. Your spouse does. You have cool ideas for a business you want to start or a project you want to do. Or just amazing things happen within your mind when you just give it a new job. Just give it a new job.
Well, and it's fluid too. So like now we're pregnant and like we said, we've got little kids running around. And so was the first trimester rough for you? I feel like I was drowning. Not only like my house was falling apart because I just was too tired to get off the couch and they'd be like, I need a snack. And I'm like, I have to get up again. Like
you have to get up and get the food.
Yes. Or I didn't sleep last night because I'm pregnant and I'm just like not getting good sleep. And now you're up early and I'm like, go back to sleep. Like I can't get up right now. And just having to like continue to care for everybody when you're trying to just like grow a foot. It's hard.
It is,
right?
Hard. It is for sure hard. And I would say this has been my most challenging pregnancy in terms of like my energy levels feeling so low. I have 3 other kids that want my attention. I have a whole slew of work that is expecting me to get it done. And the world doesn't stop when you get pregnant. So, like everything's still going on. I also felt more like nauseous than my other pregnancies in my first trimester. And I had some insomnia in my first trimester. That felt really freaking hard. Because it's
because you got an early riser, right?
So bad. Oh yeah. And you just so badly want to fall asleep. And then it's like, you're like, I'm here. I've done the things. Now fall asleep. And then your body's like, better not. And we're like, what the freak am I supposed to do?
Not even a little bit. You're not even kind of like your eyes are wide awake, but your body's just like, come on, man.
Yeah. The whole thing. So this pregnancy for sure has felt more challenging for me. I also get varicose veins when I'm pregnant. So I'd say that's the hardest part for me is honestly the veins because they will hurt so physically bad. It's hard to imagine that veins are painful. Like I
didn't know that they were painful until
it's like, instead of it feeling like, oh, like a cut on your skin, it feels like a cut on your bone. Like there's like, it's like this deep, deep pain. I don't get the burning sensation. Other people get burning with their veins. I get this like pain on my bones that it's like so deep. It hurts so bad. And it was really bad towards the end of my first trimester and like through my second trimester. And honestly, this week, I'm starting to experience relief from it where I think my body's just like redistributed the blood volume to other veins or something that it's ready to participate more and distributing the blood volume that it's not so painful on those specific veins. And I wear compression stockings every day. That can feel really freaking annoying to go put on these compression stockings and then try to find clothing that doesn't reveal the compression stocking. Oh, it's warm outside. I have freaking compression stockings on. Can't go put on shorts. Like, I mean, I could, it's just like if I go put on the shorts, then my body doesn't have the help that it needs.
Yeah.
And then I'm in more pain. So, and then the veins get worse. So it's like that mixture combination. I don't get super sick during my pregnancies. It's just like the insomnia and then the physical demands on my body, just like everybody else, can feel really hard. And when that happens, I adjust, I adapt in terms of my expectations of myself shift too. I still expect myself to like be with my kids and have patience and understanding and compassion for them. And I haven't been working out as much. Like, and I've been going to bed really freaking early and I have not been waking up to do my morning routine. And understand, like, while those things are all so important to me, like making sure that, I have morning time to myself and I'm consistently journaling at the same time each day. Those things really matter to me. And right now, like I'm trying to keep my head above water. I'm trying to do my actual priorities. And when I think about the actual priorities, it's truly just being the mom and wife that I want to be, and ensuring that my business continues to care for my family. And maybe that looks like I'm sleeping until 6:30 when one of my boys wake up instead of waking up at like 4:45 or 5 like I was before. It's just that shift in expectations of myself has been really huge so that I can have grace. There's only so much you can have grace for, right? If it's not all happening. And then we also during this pregnancy hired a really wonderful woman that's cleaned our house like once a quarter usually, or like twice a year or so, in the past. And for this pregnancy, I was like, could you come every other Tuesday? And she is $20 an hour and she stays for a few hours and does an exceptional job. That it's just like helping myself, shifting my expectations of myself, making sure I'm getting the rest that I need. Making sure that like there's snacks on hand for myself so that I can keep going. Electrolytes have been like a huge game changer.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, huge game changer for me where I'm not feeling so tired anymore. And I really think it was just like nutritionally, I didn't have what my body needed. So just like pivoting and seeing what it is that I can do has helped. And then when I need to lay down and rest and just be with my boys, my youngest still does take a nap. So my older two and I will just like sit down and watch a movie from 12 to 2 while the baby's napping. And then it's like, okay, if I physically really need that, I can have that. And then when the baby wakes up, it's like, okay, it's time for me to get up too. And I think I love the position that I'm in though, because I feel really equipped to keep my mind on track and not like resent my kids for needing me.
Right.
And resent them for not understanding like that my legs hurt. Like I can just kindly let them know my legs hurt and kindly let them know that there's a baby in my belly, and we'll spend more time looking at my belly instead of me picking them up and trotting them around
Right.
and doing those things. And that's hard for them too. It's hard for them to see changes and adjustments, and having that compassion and understanding for them, I believe, is really crucial. And knowing that there are other ways I can spend great time with them that don't require me to carry them.
Yeah.
It's me choosing to get out the coloring stuff and we all sit down to color, or it's me choosing to give them my undivided attention while they're jumping on the trampoline, even if I'm not there jumping with them. It matters to them that I like watch the trick.
Yes.
and I'm there focused, even if I'm like, okay, my legs are really hurting right now. I'm gonna just keep my legs like flat on this table. Getting them involved in the things that I need to do for myself. When I am working out, they're invited to join me. It doesn't need to be just me down there. And I do cold plunges. That helps my legs tremendously too. And I invite my boys to do a cannonball into the cold plunge if they really want to. Like, I just shifting those expectations that things are just going to look really different, not just for me, for my whole family right now. And it's taxing on everybody, even if it feels like physically very taxing for me. It's hard for them emotionally and mentally, and just seeing my family as a unit worth nurturing and caring for and shifting things around instead of something that needs to just stay how it was before.
Right.
The house has to look the same.
Yes.
My schedule and routine has to look the same. That can all adjust with me.
We are going to take a brief break to talk about hypnobabies. If you are pregnant and you want to have an unmedicated birth, I cannot recommend hypnobabies enough. I've done it with my first two. I'm absolutely doing it with my third. it's twofold. So it's a labor and delivery course. So you go through the course, you learn about how to have a healthy pregnancy, you learn about how to deliver, about what happens in delivery, you learn about your options. There's so much good information in there. And then it's audio tracks that you practice while you're pregnant to help you relax, to help you not fight the contractions because that's going to make it hurt more, but instead just let the contractions roll over you. If you're into meditation or mindfulness, this is amazing. It's amazing. I get DMs all the time telling me how much people love hypnobabies. I've also had people that go on to have C-sections and say that the hypnobabies helped keep them calm. It's just all around the best. So heyshayla.com/hypnobabieспod. Hey Shayla will get you a discount on the courses. Let's get back to the show.
I tried running yesterday. I was like, man, I really want to go for a run. So I go for a run. I literally made it like 5 houses up from my house. And I got this intense, like cramping in my abdominal muscles. And it was like so strong. And I'm 24 weeks now. And I can usually like run, still do all the physical things that I want to do. And it was so intense. And it took me walking like probably a half mile to get the cramp to go away, and like pausing a ton and just like standing, stretching, just to get that stinking muscle cramp to go away. And then I ended up walking the rest of the time. And part of my mind wanted to be like, oh, this is just so annoying. I can't do what I want to do. Like, I just want to be able to run. I'm trying to do something healthy and strong, and my body's not letting me. And I'm like, how dumb that you're just sitting here complaining that you can't run as fast as you want to, when one, you have the time to be out here by yourself. Like, you have a babysitter here right now. You took the time to take yourself on a walk. Like, that's amazing that you're out here. You're going to get great steps in today. And Tessa, you can run as fast as you freaking want after you have this baby. This is so temporary. Like, you have 3 or 4 months left of pregnancy. Like, what exactly is the problem? Go for a walk, enjoy it.
Totally.
And just talking to myself that way, I was like, oh yeah, like I can literally run at any other point in my life. Like, I
Totally,
don't actually
yeah.
need to run today.
Yeah. And just accept that it's a time.
Well, exactly. Same thing with the morning routine too. And anything that you change during pregnancy, just to try and like have expectations of yourself that feel like you can actually meet them. And that's going to look different for everybody. I believe that I can, and I feel better when I do keep up with my home, even when I'm pregnant, because it keeps me up and moving. If a body in motion stays in motion, a body at rest stays at rest. So the more time I spend sitting, the harder it is to get back up.
Yeah, totally.
That it's, you know, adjusting those expectations, and just the mentality of like, this is so temporary. This is like a sliver of time in my entire life that I can make these adjustments and it's all going to be okay. I think that helps me just mentally understand I don't have to do what I was doing before when things are so different right now.
Yeah. Well, and your point before of like, but who do you want to be? Is it okay that you're not doing your morning thing? Yeah, because who you want to be is like a present mom who still like makes sure that her kids feel seen and taken care of and whatever. So the morning routine can slip, or the workouts can slip a little bit, or you're going to go on a walk instead of a run, because that still makes you a good mom. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
And knowing that like you need your house to be picked. I mean, like everyone has their own things of like what needs to be done and what is the importance. So when hard times like this happen, sticking to like the foundation of who you want to be and allowing the circumstances to bend and move.
And honest, like, just because I'm not working out in the morning like I was, now I'm working out around 2:00, and it's with my boys downstairs. And I find like I have more energy right now to work out at 2 than I ever freaking did trying to work out at 5 or 5:30. And I do want to be someone that has this great morning routine. And I understand right now, like, my great morning routine with my kids is making them a warm breakfast. Like, that is something that I really prioritize as a mom. And now like my focus on the morning routine is warm breakfast, not 5 a.m. journal, read, work out, get showered and dressed. Like, no, it's just morning routines still matter to me. And it just starts at this time. And a warm breakfast is the routine. Like, that is what we are doing. And that's what everyone in here can expect. And on that too, just understanding too that like your body's not against you, and your body is way smarter than you are. So if it feels, I'm serious, if it can grow a freaking human, do you know how to grow a human? Yeah. No, you don't. I'm serious. I'm like, I don't know how the frick my body's doing today. Yeah. I'm safe to trust that if it says ow, There's a reason, you
Yeah,
know?
right? Totally.
Yeah. So like trusting that and not allowing your mind to build resentment towards your body, keeping your mind in a place of gratitude for your body, you will feel so much better about the limitations because you're like, well, clearly there's a reason for this. Even if I don't know what it is, that's
Mm-hmm.
okay because my body's just smarter than me. I can just
Right.
trust it. Like,
Or exploring the reasons and being like, oh, I need to
yeah.
stretch a little bit more. Or like for
Oh,
me,
for sure. Yeah.
my body's so achy right now. And I know it's because I've been sick and I haven't been able to work out. That's
Yeah.
motivation. It's not just like, oh,
Yeah.
I should do this so that I can stay fit through my, it's like,
Oh my
no,
gosh. Yeah.
I haven't been and it's hurting. So I
Yeah.
need to like work on my strength.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that to me is why I like to continue working out during pregnancy and still lift weights and stretch and do cold plunges just to keep inflammation low. Do everything in my power to prepare for the type of birth that I want that is in my control. And there's a lot of really cool ways that we can do that. And you're gonna excel and do that better with a better mindset. Like you're not gonna hate the process into a
Totally.
routine that you love.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Do you like, what are your thoughts on mom guilt? The phrase,
Mhm.
the all around it.
Yeah. Um, so just personally, I appreciate when I feel guilty because it teaches me something. It teaches me like there is something here. It's worth investigating. It's worth me figuring out and finding out what am I doing that's outside of alignment with who I want to be. Guilt is a human emotion. And all it is it's like I tell my clients, it's like an indicator. Like, hey, you're nearing a cliff and I'm going to flash this light so you back away slowly. Stop moving this way. Stop doing what you're doing. You're about to get hurt, right? Go back that way.
Yeah.
And that's the way I like to view guilt. If I'm feeling guilty at the end of the day, I might think initially that it's about one thing, like, oh, I spent so much time working today and not enough time with my kids. Well, if I think that's what the guilt is associated with, and maybe it is, maybe it's not. Just because you have one initial thought of what the guilt is coming from doesn't mean it's what you actually feel guilty about. Like it's worth just diving deeper, deeper, and your mind conveniently will give you a thought when you ask a question. It doesn't mean it's the best answer. Like there's so many reasons why we can feel guilty. And if I'm feeling guilty at the end of the day because I spent 3 hours working and my son, bless him, he doesn't know any different. He tells me, Mom, you spend way too much time working. You are always on phone calls. Friends, I work 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday. I work 3 hours a day. And he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He has nothing. He doesn't remember
Right.
really his dad being gone so much. I've never been gone so
Right.
much. Like, and he just doesn't have the perspective of living in a home with parents that leave and they're gone for work for 9 hours and they come back or going to school. We homeschool. He doesn't know what it's like to be away from us for that long.
Yeah.
So in his sweet little mind, he says, Mom, you work way too much. Okay, if I've been listening to that a few times a day and I feel guilty at the end of the day, maybe it's coming from his sweet intentioned mind
Yeah.
that just wants to spend more time with me. And if I really sit with that, you know what? I didn't work too much today. I worked for 3 hours, and that is a part of my vision. That's a part of who I am. It's a part of what I want. I love my work, and it serves my kids that I work too. Not just like that we can financially support our family, also just work ethic. Like it's important for them to see me work hard on something, to see the fruits of my labor come about where they can watch my videos or, scroll through all the pages of things that I've written for courses or,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And I feel really proud of that. So if I'm feeling guilty at the end of the day, like what is it really? Is it the way that I responded to his comment? Maybe I feel guilty about that. Evaluate it. I feel like I handled that really, really well. Like, what do I feel guilty about? Ooh, yeah, I know. I don't like that I was on my phone and just like not working. Just Instagram was open. I'm thinking, oh, I need to post a
Totally.
story. I'm watching someone else's story, and my boys are doing their front flips on the trampoline, asking me to watch, and I had to look up from my phone to watch because I wasn't already watching. I feel
Mm-hmm.
guilty about that. And again, it's not that I work too much. It's not that I don't like the way I've been communicating with him. And the feeling of guilt is not this evil in our lives. Like it truly can be so valuable for me to set new intentions the next day of my phone stays in my bedroom when I'm not working. There you go. I don't need it with me.
Right.
Like my husband knows where I am. if someone calls or texts me, I can get back to them.
Yeah.
Like there's not this urgency and real reason why that I need my phone on me. And if that's where the feeling of guilt is coming from, I can investigate. Leave my phone in the room the next day. Do I still feel guilty?
Mm-hmm.
Likely no.
Right.
Likely.
Right.
So with mom guilt and with pregnancy, we can feel really guilty about like sometimes thinking like, oh, bringing another family member in, it takes time away from my other ones. And I feel so guilty that I'm not spending as much time with them when I'm pregnant or there's a newborn. And we can feel guilty about that. And again, like that's where our focus is going. Like we are allowing our focus to be on something false. Like you're not taking anything away from your kids. You're giving them someone that's going to be a part of their lives for the rest of their lives. Like there's never going to be a time that our kids are like, oh, I just really wish you didn't have blank. Like,
Right. Right.
no, like when we're gone, they are going to have their siblings. And that, I mean, they're going to tell their siblings things that maybe they don't tell us in life. And
Mm-hmm.
just how many people can I give you in life that you can trust unconditionally? And I know they're going to be in your corner. If anything were to happen to me, like you still have a family. And I think that's, if we shifted our focus and our attention there, we'd feel a whole lot different about it. Just sometimes we let our mind be a little bit lazy, a little bit undisciplined and really negative, where it's like, oh, I'm just not doing the right thing because I'm seeing this like so short focus for the next 6 months, what it's going to look like instead of the next 60 years of
Yeah.
what it's
Right.
going to look like.
Right.
Right. So I think just guilt is a valuable emotion and messenger. And when people say that moms shouldn't feel guilty, I just really don't agree with that because they would never tell me I shouldn't feel happy. I shouldn't feel grateful. I shouldn't feel angry at my husband. They wouldn't tell me that. So why are they telling me that I shouldn't feel guilty? Like
Right.
I don't think it's helpful.
No, I agree. Well, and I'm thinking like where my mom guilt came from this pregnancy is like the amount of screen time that we've had because I
Yeah.
was just, I mean, I got COVID in my second trimester when I was supposed to be like hitting that second trimester
Yeah.
energy. I was like,
Yeah.
it was 2 or 3 weeks later and I'm like, I'm still exhausted. This cannot be from COVID. And my midwives were like, well, a week and a half after you got it, you went to Arizona. And so that wasn't resting. And then you like, it makes sense that you're still exhausted. And I'm like, but we've watched so much TV and like
Mm-hmm.
just the mom that you were before, you're not able to be at the moment. And I feel,
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense. And honestly, Shayla, when I think about like guilt with screen times, I think like if we have a vision in our mind of what we want our motherhood to look like and we want their childhood to look like, and there's just this identity in our heart of a mother that we want to be, and we're not being that, we're going to feel guilty.
right. That is exactly what it is. Cause I'm like, we didn't
We
get outside. We didn't do this. And Seth, like, if you have a fantastic partner, that's such a blessing in
It
life
is a blessing.
because he's
It
like,
is.
Shayla, you are growing a human.
Mm-hmm.
It's 20 degrees outside.
Yep.
Like the fact that you're not getting out, that you don't have motivation to get out, like, again, this is a short time in life. We will get outside when the weather gets better. When you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling better, like it's okay. And how lucky are you that these kids will sit and watch a show for a while because some
Yeah,
kids are not interested. And then you'd have to continue to chase them around. Like,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And again, like with that feeling of guilt though, it doesn't mean that what we're doing is like so it's just completely devastating to our kids and their childhood. Like we can truly come to a place of compassion and understanding and grace and love ourselves through what we're in and still understand my vision of motherhood looks like this.
mm-hmm.
And who I want to be as a mom looks like this. So how do I make this vision um like, what are the details of this vision and what does it look like and what do I look like, who am I when I'm pregnant and I have COVID and I need
Yeah,
to rest, and all of these things are also true. Instead of it being like one or the other, it's just it can all be true and come together, and the feeling of guilt will subside because it's been listened to, it's been validated. Like
totally.
feelings want to be heard. They're messengers. And when you don't hear them out, you don't ask the hard questions, you don't listen to it, it starts screaming. It screams at you because you didn't listen when it was just like raising its hand. You didn't
Yeah.
call on it. So then it starts talking to you and you're like, please don't speak to me unless you're spoken to. And then your feelings
Right.
like, F this, like I've got something to say, and start screaming. And then we like feel overtaken by the feeling of overwhelm or anger or guilt. And we start reacting and acting out of alignment with who we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And would that have happened if we were to have just like had an honest conversation with ourselves of, look, this isn't what I envisioned my motherhood looking like. This isn't what I envision who I am in my motherhood. So what do I need to do that honors where I'm currently at
Mm-hmm.
and the vision that I want for motherhood? Like, what's one step I can take in that direction? And honestly, that step doesn't always look like turning off the screens. Sometimes that step looks like what they're watching on the screen. Like, oh, I want to put, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying like, because I'm like, my wheels are turning as you're saying this. And like being present with them is important. So the difference of for me for feeling guilty with screen time is, am I also scrolling Instagram while they're watching a show? Or am I watching it and be like, what? That was not kind. Or like, what? That's the coolest dad ever. And like commenting on it. And like, it's an activity that we're doing together. Even though I'm not stoked that we're doing the screens, I'm at least present with them while we're doing it. Or I'm actually utilizing that time and I am taking a little snooze while they're watching the show. And I'm like, okay, that was time well spent. Like,
exactly.
Right.
And when we look at it at the end of the day, are we going to feel so guilty? Or when we stand up at 2:00, it's been a couple hours sitting down with them and we stand up, are we going to feel so guilty if we did get the sleep that we needed? Or we sat down and we had our arms around them and we interacted, we engaged, and we had a snack out or whatever it is that makes it like so much fun.
Right.
And are we going to feel so guilty? No, I have never once gotten up feeling guilty after watching a show with my kids that I actually watched with them.
Right. Yes.
I've only ever felt guilty if I was like scrolling my phone. I don't even feel guilty standing up after reading a book while they're watching a show. Because I still really like the example that I'm setting. And that's such a good point, Shayla. And that just goes back to this idea of like, what is one step I can take in the direction that gets me in alignment with the mother and the vision that I have for my motherhood? Watching the show with them, like making sure my phone is away, laying on my son's lap to take a nap. My son would love that. He loves physical touch. So if I just laid my head on his lap, they've stroked my hair when I do that. Like, those little things matter so much. And I wouldn't feel guilty about them playing with my hair for an hour while I laid down like I need to.
Right.
So it's like that overall choice. And again, that feeling of guilt, sometimes we look at it and just associate it with the TV. We just associate it with the screen. When the reality was like, no, I'm associating like the feeling of guilt is here to tell me you weren't present. And that's a huge value for you as a mother. And that's not a bad value to have. Like, we don't want to change the value. Like, we don't want to just like stop caring about these things. We want to see how can these things coexist, and what are the parameters I want to set in place that make a lot of sense for my family, and being able to decide for yourself based off what you want, not someone else that's not doing screens for 30 days, or they removed every TV from their home. Again, that takes us right back to someone else that has a different home life and schedule than you have. Thinking like, oh, I must be doing something so terribly wrong and I can't have what I want because they have it. Like, if you don't want screens in your home, you could get rid of them too. Like, if you'd like. And there are other ways. It's just, do you even know what you really want? Or are you just looking at what everybody else is doing and what they have?
Totally.
Like, those are two very different things.
That I just interviewed. Have you heard of the RO box? It's like you would probably love it. I'm literally obsessed with it, but it's a phone charging box that's attached to an app that tracks the amount of time you're physically away from your phone.
So I didn't know the name of it. I've seen that though.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
I've seen it too. And I'm like, that's intriguing. Yeah. Interesting.
Families were using it kind of like a challenge, like who could stay off their phone the most, who could keep their phone in the box the most. Oh, I love that.
So they've gamified there, and it's like not just like being off your phone, it's physically being away from your phone, like how you keep it in the drawer. And so you make like a goal for the day, and I'm like, okay, I try and do like an hour in the morning, and then my goal is 3.5 hours, whatever. And
Yeah.
he was talking about, oh, where is this going? It's good. It's good. What did you just say? You were just talking to,
Like how
honestly,
some, like knowing what you want instead of just what other people are doing,
yes.
or
Yep.
stepping, like getting rid of all the screens or keeping
Yep.
some
Yep.
and just being intentional.
Yes. So he's like, we wait a certain year to introduce phones for our children. And when we do that, our example and how we navigate phones, we're teaching them how to use the device. So it's not
Yeah.
just, here's your phone. He's like, they don't have Safari, they don't have social media, they don't have this. But more than that, I need to be the example that I don't have my phone when we watch movies together. I keep my
Uh-huh.
phone in the kitchen when we go to bed. Like, this is how you properly use your phone. So it's not that the phone is like this, the bane of existence. He's like, I work off my phone. I use
Yeah.
my phone. I love my phone. I'm not going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But I am going to, for myself, learn the parameters of what I feel good about, what I feel comfortable with, so that then I can teach my children by example
I
how to
love that.
properly use the phone. Right. And so I think,
So good.
yeah, it's aligned with what you're saying, because he's like, what are the values that we want from our phone? What are the things that we want to teach our children about it? We don't bring it to bed with us. We don't bring it in the bathroom with us. We don't like, and
Mhm.
then that, just by example, them learning how to use it properly. And I just thought that was really
I love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that can be applied to all screens. Like, what example are we setting with the iPads and playing games? Like, what example are we setting with the TV and when we're
Well,
choosing to
books.
watch
What are we
shows?
example setting with books?
Exactly.
We're
Yeah. What
reading.
example are we setting with books?
Yeah.
Yeah. And man, that's really, really awesome. I love that.
Yeah. We're going to take a brief break to talk about TushBaby. Who has a toddler that just wants to be held non-stop? And they always want to be up at the kitchen. They always want to be but then when you put them in like a carrier or something, they want to be put back down. This is very inconvenient. TushBaby is like this thing that you see and you're like, is this a gimmick? You wrap it around your waist and then it gives them a little seat to sit on. And then you just hold them with your forearm. And now you have two hands to do all the things. They're happy. And when they're not happy, you just set them back down and then you pick them back up. And it's amazing. I love using this at Target. My kids are all over the place at Target, but when I use this, they just chill. They could be outward facing, inward facing. If you are in like the toddler up down phase, or like that your kids want to always be held, it's fantastic. So if you're interested, go to heyshayla.com/tushbaby pod, POD, and Hey Shayla will give you a discount. Let's get back to the show. All right. Well, I just feel like we've hit 100,000 topics, but all of it feels like gold. Like all of it.
So good.
Yeah,
Just like
because
a family, like the total mindset family
right?
podcast
We hit
episode.
relationships, we hit pregnancy,
Yes.
because yeah, I just think during pregnant, I mean, all of motherhood, you either are the victim and you are resentful, and I think there can be an and
Mhm.
you can figure out how to make it work for you and how to, I just think the takeaway for me is like, what is the core of who you are and who you want to be and how you want your family to be? That means your circumstances can change. That means your husband can work shift work. That means you can be pregnant. That means this, that you can watch TV and not feel guilty about it.
Mhm.
Like everything around you can change and you can still feel good at the end of the day because you know, what did you say? Who you are
What you want.
and what you want.
Hmm. Yeah. And like that vision. When I say what you want, it's really just the vision. And yeah, this mindset work, friends, anybody listening, it's not about being complacent and just learning to accept right where your circumstances are. Yes, acceptance is crucial, and we want to train our mind to have that neutral look at life and just be able to look at it and accept it because it's reality. And arguing with reality to say this shouldn't happen this way or this should be happening instead is such a waste of time. It's a waste of
Totally.
your precious time, your precious energy, your headspace. Like
Yeah.
it's exhausting. It's exhausting to think what should and shouldn't be happening. So acceptance is crucial. And the very next step after acceptance is really asking yourselves, what am I going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Just because that thing
Yes.
happened doesn't mean it decides what we're going to do.
Yep.
And it's so powerful. That's where it comes right back to being so powerful in who you believe you are and what it is that you want, what your vision is of your motherhood, of your marriage, of your life. And if you're having a really hard time understanding and figuring out who you are and what you want, get off social media for a week.
Amen.
Stop looking at what other people are doing and who they say they are and what they have. And if a week doesn't cut it, do a month. Like and it's not about isolating yourself. Get involved with your actual community, people truly in your life that you can remember. Oh, would you look at that? It's a real person. Like,
literally, but also the journaling piece and
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, that's the foundation of everything.
That was my next thing. Yeah.
But share just quickly, because journaling, sometimes I'm like, I start and I'm like, things are so hard right now. Blah, 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 and I start writing the negative thing. So share how you teach to journal.
Okay. So when it comes to journaling, friends, there's no wrong way to journal. I just have a specific technique to journal. So if you ever feel like you just need to brain dump all that negativity, you know what? There's 80% going on up there. Go ahead, get it out. Like, just do what you need to do. And there's a lot of different techniques out there that can be so healing to look at your experiences that you've been through in life intentionally. And I use a lot of those healing modalities with writing in my courses because they're so valuable. When it comes to alignment journaling that I do every single day, and my clients do it every single day, it's about a focus on who you want to be and what you want. And that focus is so crucial because if you approach a piece of paper every single time and just write about the negative things of that day, all you're doing is reaffirming them and repeating them. And your mind is already very repetitive. So it's just like, you're not teaching your mind something new. You're not teaching it how to look at that hard circumstance differently. You're not teaching it how to show up differently the next time your kids throw a bowl on the floor and it shatters everywhere. They hit their siblings. Like, the very thing you say you have the hardest time with is exactly what your mind needs to be taught to do something different in. And we're not going to wait for our kids to stop hitting each other. Like, I'm pretty sure my boys are going to knock each other out when they're teenagers. I am almost 100% convinced. Like, just seeing where we're at now, I'm like, well, this is, I can't imagine it just going away on its own. And there's a lot of reasons. So my goal in my writing is not to change my kids or change my husband. It's to equip myself to be who I want to be for my kids and for my husband in any position or season or circumstance we're in. So this writing practice is so powerful because we use mental rehearsal. And your mind is already mentally rehearsing something all the time. It's mentally rehearsing how hard it's going to be to fall asleep, how hard it's going to be to wake up in the morning, how the baby's going to wake up at this time and you're going to huff and puff and roll your eyes and look at your husband who's still sleeping and say, of course. Like, it's got the whole night mapped out. Like, and it can mentally rehearse literally anything, how you're going to feel when your mother-in-law calls you or she's planning an Easter dinner or whatever, and how you're going to feel when you get to the house, who's going to say what to you and what you're going to say back to them. Have you ever done that? Just like imagined who was going to say that thing to you and mentally rehearse what exactly you were going to say back to like prep yourself. I used to do that all the time. Just to like try and like hit the lowest.
Be one up. Yeah.
Be one up, prepared. Like, I'm going to say just the mic drop thing and I'm going to have it figured out before I get there. And it's so insane that our mind spends so much time mentally rehearsing who we don't want to be and what we don't want to do just for the sake of being prepared. And it's like, okay, if being prepared is so important to me, which it is, it's important to everybody, stay safe. That's why our mind loves to show us the negatives and the problems. That is important. So how do we be prepared to be who we want to be and do what we want to do? And that's what we use this writing practice for, is at literally everything and everyone can stay exactly the same and you're going to change. And that's what I did in my own life. And that's what this writing practice has been for me. And it allows me to see like what I really want and stop being so concerned with how I'm going to get it. Just like that goal of having my husband stay home and being able to like financially provide through this business and work. And I had no idea how I was going to do that. I just knew I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I didn't put a time limit on myself. I didn't, that wasn't there. Sure, some people might have done it faster and I really don't care because I did it. And that's what I live with over here. So the writing, you're not asking your mind to do anything new. remember, your mind is already predicting what's going to happen next, mentally rehearsing it, focusing on who you are and what's going on. It's just not who you want to be and what you want to happen and who you want, like what you want to do. So we use this writing practice as a way to get your mind into a present tense state. That's another really cool thing about your mind is it doesn't know the difference between something you think has happened and something that's actually happened. So long as you have a feeling about it, your mind is like, sold, done, it had to have happened. And
fact.
Bless it, we just use that to our advantage. And that's why we can believe our dreams. That's why we can swear someone said, you said Tuesday at noon. I know it for a fact. You said Tuesday at noon. And then you go back and look at the text, or you go back and look at the schedule, the appointment. And it was like Wednesday at 6 or something. And you're like, well, what? Like, your brain is actually wrong sometimes. Like, fascinating, I know. And it doesn't like to be wrong. It likes to be right. So,
but the things that from the prompts or the journaling is like, the one thing that I've been using a lot, because Seth will be like, what's so difficult lately? I'll be like, I don't know. So then I start writing like, what kind of person do I want to be when he's around? What kind of person do I want him to be around? I'll be like, I want somebody who's calm and understanding and like who finds the good in things. And so from your journaling, it's like just writing present tense. I am a calm person who can take on or I get so triggered when my baby wakes up from their naps before they're supposed to. So then saying, today, my baby woke up from her nap and I was calm because whatever, makeup or like kind of.
Yeah. Well, Shayla, what time is she supposed to wake up from her nap?
Yeah, right. Or
Tell me what time in your mind.
Well, not anymore. This was infancy. Like I'd be like, you have been taking 2-hour naps. It's 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes. I haven't even gotten into what I need to, why are you waking up right now? And I would get like furious, like so angry at this baby who just woke up.
Do what she's supposed to do.
Right. Yeah.
And this is what's so cool about mindset though, is honestly, our kids wake up right when they're supposed to wake up.
Right.
Just like we do. I mean, there's no part of us that isn't doing what it's supposed to do. It's just the meaning that we associate to it. So when we can look at our baby, this is what I think why I enjoy postpartum so much and like that newborn stage so much now. I didn't with my first because I had that supposed to idea, what he should be doing. And now like my second, third, and especially going to this one, I understand like, oh my gosh, like you're going to call for me right when you need me. Not like you're going to do what I need you to do or what I think you should do. It's just, no, you're really going to let me know when you need me. And I can trust that at 24/7 in the grocery store, in the car, no matter where we are. You don't care what other people think about you asking for me. Like, and I think that's really special. I think that's really beautiful. And when my mind understands that because we've been practicing and journaling about it, then when it happens, my baby cries in the grocery store, he's letting me know exactly when he needs me, and he doesn't care who's around or what they think or if it's disturbing somebody else. Hopefully it teaches somebody else to start asking for what they need too, no matter where they are. I would freaking love that for them, right? Like I would love that for myself. And when we have that mindset about it, instead of the babies like not sleeping or not waking up when they're supposed to, you could have the exact same mindset. My baby's waking up exactly when she's supposed to because she's up.
Right.
If she's up, then she knows she's supposed to be up right now. And whatever that looks like next, if I help put her back to sleep, that doesn't mean like, that's where our mind gets so fixated on the how and like what I have to do next. You could try putting her back to sleep. You could invite her to be awake and up with you. Either way. Either way, just so long as you accept that she's supposed to be up because she is up, you're not going to feel the same way. And then you can choose what you're going to do in that moment. And then, with the journaling, like you can truly focus on anything that's going really well. And some people just suck at receiving a compliment. Some people truly suck at enjoying a good time in life because they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Like, so it's not necessarily something hard's going on. Something really good might be going on and you are sabotaging it. And you want to, seriously, like you want to see yourself as someone that's celebratory and someone that's enthused and elated and seeking every opportunity to celebrate something.
Totally.
And you make a big deal out of the things that other people aren't celebrating.
Yeah.
Like, that's the person you want to be. That doesn't mean, something hard's going on. It just means like, wow, I'm kind of like dampening the party over here. Like, I'm not
wet
really
blanket over here.
Yeah, I'm not really like celebrating. And you can journal about that. You can journal if you feel anxious traveling with your kids, journal about that. If you feel fearful about birth coming up, guess what? Birth's like the most natural thing you'll ever do in your entire life. Your body's literally designed for it. So it's actually your brain that needs to shut up, not your body that needs fixing. And I journal about birth because it's so easy to just kind of question and doubt yourself and your abilities. So usually starting about like 25 to 30 weeks, I journal every single day about my birth and the birth I have and how I breathe and what contractions are and how they feel and what I envision myself being like during them and the way I invite my kids into my birth. If they walk into the room, like all the things that I could fear, oh my gosh, what if my kids wake up while I'm in labor because I have home births? Instead of fearing it, I can just embrace it.
Yeah.
Okay, Tessa, what if that does happen? What the frick are you gonna do? Cry? Like,
right.
You just yell at them? Like,
totally.
Like, what are you gonna do? And it was really like my third birth was my favorite because my son, my oldest, woke up and it was like 12:45, 1 a.m. at this point, like right before the baby was born. So it was like an intense stage of labor. And he walks into my bathroom and has this little, like, when he walks into my room at night, he like makes this like innocent face, like, can I be in here?
Yeah.
And he does that. And I'm in the bathtub, like desperate for my husband to get back to me to help me with these contractions, counter pressure. And I'm like, hey, buddy, how's it going? Are you having a hard time sleeping? He's like, yeah, I miss you guys. And I'm like, well, you can stay in here. I'm like, the baby's coming. And we didn't know if it was boy or girl. And I told him, I'm like, the baby's coming. And I knew like another contraction is about to hit. Like I'm
my gosh.
on time. And I told him, I'm like, yeah, so mommy just has to get the baby here. And we've already talked about like how babies are delivered. So I'm like, first I just have to push the baby out. And that just takes like a little bit of time to get to that point. And mommy might make some really weird noises. So it might sound like, and I was like, remember when Dory talks to whales on Finding Nemo? He's like, yeah. I was like, that's exactly what I'm going to sound like. And I was like this. And that's literally, it was like
the contraction
the coolest. It's like seriously the coolest moment of my life. It's exactly when the contraction hit. And I was like this. And I just leaned into the contraction. I sounded just like freaking Dory talking to whales, like to a T. It was a whole thing. And then like that contraction passed. I sat back up, like I just sat up in my bathtub and I was like, just like that. And he was like, okay. And it was like, cool. It just like, I just felt unstoppable as a mom. Like there is just nothing that's going to knock me out of being the mom I want to be. And I can be in intense physical pain and still handle things in a way that I feel proud of and let my kids know I'm going to scream. I'm going to yell. I'm going to make these noises because that's how I freaking have my babies. I scream, pushing all of them out. Like, I think it's really great that some people just peacefully sit there and that is not me. It's not me. And, Liam was just, I had my baby over there and he was just so excited. And I did scream having him and it didn't scare him. Yeah. So it's like, to me, it's not about this like idea of perfection that you never raise your voice. You never yell, you never throw something. Like, it's just about like, what are you throwing? Are you throwing a ball or are you throwing something that you wouldn't want your kids to throw? Like, live a full life, have a full experience. And when like, if it's something that you really feel like you have to scream about, have you prepped them for that? Like I let Liam know I'm going to scream really loud. Yes, and I'm going to talk like Dory, right? And I let him know and I didn't feel guilty.
Right.
I didn't feel guilty about any of that. And he's never said like, and through everything, he's never once said, oh, wow, you screamed so loud when you were having baby Drew. Like, he's talked repeatedly about how baby Drew came out with blood on him. He told the grandparents, right, when they got there, he's like, yeah, baby Drew had blood all over him.
Oh my gosh.
Deal. Right. Sure he's talked about that. He got to cut the cord. So he's talked about that.
Oh my gosh.
He talked about, he doesn't even talk about the whole bathtub thing. Like everything else to him was just like,
whatever.
Normal.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
the
even
blood
coming
though, like, that
out
was
though.
cool.
Like I would like before you said that you would talk to him about how babies were born, I'd be like, okay, well, you need to leave now because like I don't know that you're gonna be. Am I comfortable with you
Yeah.
seeing all of this happen? Like,
Yeah.
but if it's
And we
just like
hadn't talked
common
like, and
knowledge,
I mean, it's just common knowledge in terms of like, as my belly gets bigger, my boys just naturally ask questions.
right?
And where does the baby come out? Well, it comes out of mommy's vagina.
Yeah,
And that's like what my kids understand.
yeah,
And I personally feel very comfortable with that. And I'd rather them know the facts than try to like paint something different and then tell them the fact later. Like
yeah,
if you're asking, then you must be ready to know.
right.
Is
Yeah,
like my idea of it.
yeah.
And that helps me. So it will be interesting to see. I mean, he asked us to wake him up for this baby. He's like, do I get to be there again for this baby? He's like, you promise that you'll wake me up if I'm not in here. And
Oh,
he really wants to be involved. And I don't know if my other boys would want to. And when you said like, I don't have a village, I don't have family that lives near us at all either. I do have a really great neighbor that I adore, and we bring each other food and our kids play together. So like, I know if I needed it, I could have my boys go over to her house. And that's the special thing about community is it doesn't have to be your in-laws or your sister's in-laws or your sister's siblings, whatever. Like you can create your own community
totally.
and have that be a part of your vision. Like before we moved into this house, that was a big part of my vision writing, is just the community that we lived in and how much I adored the people that were near us, and they set excellent values and examples for my kids, and we learned tremendous lessons with them. And we have so many kids to play with. There are 21 kids on my street. Like there's a lot of kids on my
So
street.
fun.
It is so fun. And I journaled about that. And it's like, that was something I really, really wanted. I just stayed focused on that. And I didn't know how we were going to get it.
Right.
I didn't know like who's going to freaking live across the street. And it just so happened that it's a wonderful family. They have 4 little girls. Our kids are like all the same ages. They have one that's older than me, and now I'm gonna have one that's younger than them. And I'll have my 4 and they have their 4, and they're like our best, greatest friends on like in our neighborhood. Fun. Yeah. And it's not something that I could have planned or I could have known. And it's something that I knew I really wanted. Mm-hmm. So I just want to encourage everybody in their journaling, no matter where you start. You can start in the alignment journaling course, or you can just start with a pen and piece of paper right now in front of you. Turn over your grocery shopping list and start writing. Right? Yeah. Like it doesn't have to be crazy fancy. It's just write out who you want to be and what you want. And I really believe those are 2 of the hardest questions we'll ever answer in life. Like as soon as you think you know who you want to be, you're going to learn something different and be like, oh, right. And as soon as you think you know what you want, you're like, yeah, exactly. It evolves so much. And that's why I think those questions are so hard, because you're constantly growing, you're constantly evolving, and something you thought you wanted turns out was just this like illusion because you saw somebody else had it and you figured out that doesn't actually matter to me at all.
Totally. Yeah, I did that. This girl was like, I'd walk a mile in the snow to my sauna. And I was like, she's outside doing all these. That's so cool. And then I was like, I would never do that unless there was like 12 of us and we were like going on an excursion and we were going to but I was like
a weekend girls trip.
Yes.
Not like a daily life.
Right. But I was following her like, wow, you do this homeschooling and you've got this really cool house and you live on all this land and you'd like do all these. And I was like, I actually would not want to do that.
That's okay. Yeah. And it's so it's so freeing to realize like somebody else has what I don't want. And they love it. And I love that for them.
Yes.
Like,
totally.
You know, I have a garden. Not everybody wants to garden. And I like to bake, and not everybody likes to bake. And I love to make courses, and I love to make content for social media. And I know so many people are like, I would literally hate every single step of that. And it's like, well, this is meant for me and not you. Right. So go find out what's meant for you.
Exactly.
Like, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. So if somebody's like totally vibing with you, what are some things that you offer? Obviously, alignment journaling.
Yeah. Course. Alignment journaling is that course, and they can just find that a link here, or alignmentjournaling.com. It's really easy. You can follow me on Instagram, and I share mindset swaps and different perspectives there that are really fun, sometimes challenging. And you know, if it challenges you, it's not always a bad thing. So just keep that in mind.
Totally.
Yeah, I have my mom's
Wait, your
podcast.
Instagram is Tessa Romero _.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
At Tessa Romero _ is the Instagram. And then I have my podcast, the Mom Set Podcast. And then a couple times a year, I run a 12-week course, and that one won't be available again until like New Year's of 2025 after I have the baby. So
Cool.
let's,
And are you doing any more retreats? Probably not.
We are likely when I'm done nursing this one.
Okay.
That was a really hard decision for us to make. And I just feel like I can always run another retreat, and I just don't know how many more or if I get to have any more babies. So it's like, well, I don't really want to rush out of anything. So we're going to just tentatively plan our next retreat being like New Year's of 2026, like a whole 18 months after that.
Totally.
So
yeah,
but it is tentatively on the schedule for the next retreat. It's just quite a ways out. So start journaling now.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the retreat.
And then we'll meet at the retreat in a year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, it's always so fun to chat with you. Always so.
I love our talks.
Yeah, I get off of it and I just go downstairs. I'm like, hey, Seth, what's going on? I'm in a great mood. Children, hello. Let's get you down for a nap. Like,
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
That. You're amazing, Shayla. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please share with somebody you think would love. And I would be so honored if you would subscribe to the podcast and leave a comment and rating below so I can know what you guys are digging, what you want more of, just connect with you a little better. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.